Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Jonesy and Brown show. That is Mike Jones. I am John Brown. We are your Philly sports bulls, here to talk Philly sports for the next hour or so. Real quick, at the top of the show, because it just came down over the wires. Grace and peace and prayers to the family of NFL great Dick Butkus. Died today at the age of 80. One of the all-time greats. Shout out to him. Shout out to his family.
Ironic that he passes as the Bears prepare to play on Thursday night
football. Yes,
one of the most recognizable names of any Bears player ever.
Yes,
known for toughness, physicality, like that real Chicago style of football.
Yes.
He exemplified it.
Yes, definitely. And he was definitely somebody who was truly iconic, who like twofold. It was what he did on the field during his playing career, and then his life after football. He was just as famous, where there's truly generations of people who didn't even know he played football, but still knew who he was because he was that big of a star, doing acting and sports commentary and stuff like that. So sorry to hear him go. Sorry to hear him pass. Just prayers for his family and friends and everybody. So I just wanted to say that to start the show. Also, got my Morgan State hat on because I must represent my alma mater. We had some sad times this week, but I just wanted to show some love to Morgan State University. We are the national treasure.
And when you say sad times, you're not referring to the football team,
bruh. Well, you know what? That's a whole nother story, man.
There were some actual real life things that happened at Morgan this week.
Yeah,
we definitely want to send thoughts and prayers to anyone who's involved. And it's just a wild world we live in these days.
Exactly. Hey, man. Before we start getting into the real stuff, and we'll talk Eagles a little bit later on, but I wanted to start with this because I wanted to start with a real quick Eagles point. We'll circle back. We'll talk more about the Eagles and their upcoming game a little bit later on. But the growing controversy, if you want to call it that, over the quarterback sneak and the Eagles playing the quarterback sneak, utilizing the quarterback sneak. You hear all types of different names for it, slang terms, whatever you want to call it, the tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever people are calling it. But now people want it banned. Mike Jones, you've always been a champion for common sense. Mike Jones, you've always been someone who's had a low tolerance for foolishness. I need you to speak on this. People want that ban. People want to stop that. Chris Sims said, hey, man, he'd go out there and he'd hurt the quarterback. He'd injure the quarterback to stop it. What are your thoughts?
All right, so first of all, this Chris Sims dude, if your daddy's name wasn't Phil, nobody'd know who you are. Because you weren't a good quarterback. So
was not. No, he was not. In fact, he was probably a better. Chris Sims. Let's keep it real. Chris Sims was a better quarterback than he was a football commentator.
Hold on, I didn't even get this stuff off. So just let me run for a second because this Chris Sims dude.
Chris Sims, let him.
He was not a good quarterback. He was on TV by the time anyone else in his draft class was just hitting their football prime. Like he's on TV already. Like, you got drafted by your daddy's team. They ain't even want to give you a chance. Like, when nepotism doesn't work for someone who looks like Chris Sims, you know he's bad. He's just bad. Like, when nepotism can't save you and you look like Chris Sims, It's a wrap. Just go ahead and go home. So I don't want to talk about him no more. Now, that being said, I really thought this whole conversation was over after this past weekend because, there's all off season there was to talk about, competition committee should ban it. And then it comes back and it's not a football play. And How many teams failed this weekend trying to run that play? I saw at least 4 teams fail trying to run that play. And the Giants not only failed, but got 2 offensive linemen injured on one snap while trying to attempt to run that play. So don't tell me that just anybody can do it. And no, the Eagles are successful at it because the Eagles have a great offensive line and they have a physically gifted quarterback. For 15, 18 years, whatever it was, when Tom Brady was quarterback sneaking at 90% plus in New England, nobody said ban the quarterback sneak because Tom Brady was better at it than everyone else. Now Jalen Hurts is better at it than everyone else. There's always someone, whether it's because of the line figures out leverage or the quarterback just knows how to find the right hole. There is an art to the quarterback sneak. Always has been, always will be. If your team's not good at it, okay. I mean, let's see. Who's a good football team? Name a good football team.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. Best quarterback in the league plays for the Chiefs, right?
Yes.
What if they made a rule that says it's unfair that Patrick Mahomes can sling it sidearm when somebody's tackling him and go downfield and still be accurate because we thought we had him and nobody else can do that. So Patrick Mahomes is now illegal for you to throw a sidearm throw.
Yes, sidearm throws are not football plays. If they say that,
baseball play, sidearm throws are baseball plays. That's what this sounds like to me. It's foolishness. If a team has an advantage, use it. If you don't want the team to have that advantage, figure out how to stop it.
Look, man. I'm in agreement with you. I look at it like this. You can't be mad at the Eagles. The Eagles come out every week with a offensive line they built entirely through the draft. This wasn't a go out here and bring in the 2 biggest free agent names or anything like that. This is a draft.
Howie Roseman has made it a priority to invest in the offensive line through the draft. There are no free agent O-linemen starting. There are very limited amount in the rotation on the roster at all. Even your top backups are drafted players. Tyler Steen, a drafted player. This is a priority for this team.
Yes. This team prioritized building through this offensive line by building through the draft. You have picks. You have players who were picked all throughout the draft. Your right tackle,
first round picks.
Yes, your right tackle, a first round pick. Your left tackle,
a sixth
or seventh round pick that you had on your practice squad that you built up until he could be your prize left tackle.
Both your guards, second round picks. Both your starting guards are second round picks.
Your center has now been inherited by the last 3 coaches. Your center, one of the last remaining Andy Reid guys. And now we're talking about the 3rd coach since Andy Reid. Your quarterback has been your quarterback is known for squatting 600 pounds. He's not an easy tackle. Quarterback be in the gym. You don't like whatever you want to call it. Bottom line is this. If you don't like the fact that they run this play, tell your GM to do a better job, get better players, and tell your quarterback to get in the gym. Plain and simple. Don't talk to me about what's a football play. Don't talk to me about anything else. Bottom line is people haven't stopped it because they can't stop it because this line is too big, then their quarterback is too strong. Trying to stop it by changing the rules ain't football. That's not football. You stop it. It's like you see it in football all the time. Teams get two great wide receivers. What do other teams in that division do? Get better DBs. Teams have mobile quarterbacks. What do other teams in that division do? Get better linebackers.
Get more athletic on your ends and your linebackers.
Exactly. Bottom line is, if you're the Commanders, if you're the Cowboys, if you're the Giants, and you know they're running this play on you guys 2 times a year, get a better defensive line, get a better front seven. Plain and simple. If you feel like your team is a perennial playoff team, if you're in the NFC and you're a perennial playoff team, and you know at some point in time to get to a Super Bowl, you have to go through Philadelphia, beef up your defensive line, because if they get in the short yardage situations, they're going to run that play. And they're going to take that big offensive line that Howie Roseman has been building for years and push the ball down your throat.
Because that's really the thing. You don't build your offensive line. You don't build your defensive line. You spend all your first-round picks on corners and receivers and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be upset when the team that has multiple top first and second round picks and then an athletic freak who happened to turn out to be a monster, even though he was a 7th round pick on the O-line. We invested in this line.
Mm-hmm. You could have had Jordan Milo spent what? 2, maybe 3 years on the practice squad?
Forget the practice squad. He got drafted in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm.
He literally was there. Every team in the league could have looked and said, this guy is 6'8", 380 and a physical freak. Let's go teach him how to play O-line. You know who did that? Philly did that.
Exactly.
And when I say every team, I literally mean every team had 6 chances to draft them. Mm-hmm. Some teams had 7. Like, what are we talking about now? Like, your O-line doesn't get it done? Not my fault. Draft a better O-line. Your D-line can't stop it? Again, not my fault.
Exactly.
Get a better D-line. It hasn't had 100. The Eagles haven't had 100% success rate with it.
No, they've been stopped.
What are we even talking about? At this point, this conversation needs to go away.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Completely with you. All right, so let's let it go away, man. Because we have other things to talk about. One of the things that we have to talk about is the Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies have moved on. They have swept the Miami Marlins. They have moved on to the NLDS, where they will face one more time the Atlanta Braves. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola both pitched great games in the wild card. A lot of people were worried about Nola. I think people felt pretty confident going in about Zach Wheeler.
You want me to be? So here's the thing with that. With Nola, you're right. There were a lot of people who had questions regarding Nola, but for me, the people who were truly questioning and worried about Nola probably missed the last few weeks of the regular season. If you watch Nola's last 2 starts specifically, you could see that he regained control of his breaking pitches, specifically the curveball, which when Nola's going, that's a dangerous weapon for him. But he hadn't really had good command of that most of this year. when you see it working, this is the Nola you get.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I get based on the season Nola had, there was some issues with home runs, especially where, yeah, if you were just looking at the numbers for the year, it's definitely cause for concern. But the last two starts of Nola's season had me relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
I expected that game. I was more surprised by the 7 runs than I was by Nola's pitching. Now, I expected the offense to score.
Yep.
I expected Nola to pitch well. I expected maybe like a 4-1 game type of thing. It's more similar to what how game 1 went.
Mm-hmm.
The offense did better. The pitching did better. But the gaps between expectations and reality for me, the gap was smaller on the pitching expectation to reality than it was on the offensive expectation to reality. So this Phillies team, they're just ready. They're just rolling. They're ready to go. They seem confident. They seem loose. They seem like a team that is here to win. And I don't think they're afraid of anyone.
No. Not afraid of anyone. I think definitely not afraid of the Atlanta Braves.
I think the Braves might be afraid of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
lost
think
to Philly in the playoffs last year. The Braves, because they clinched the division so early, they shut it down 2-3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're going to be able to turn it right back on like that. That's not an easy thing to do. When you go from playing at a high level and in rhythm, in the zone, and then you shut it down, you got trying to gear it back up. Some guys can do that, but it's not something that's easily done by everyone. So, honestly, I'm expecting the Phillies to win this in 4 games. It's a best of it's a best of 5 series.
Best of 5. Yep. Yeah. I'm immediately thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But no, it's a best of 5, so I got the Phillies going 3-1.
Okay.
I think they could split the first 2 in Atlanta, come back to Philly, and handle our business.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. If in fact Atlanta don't let the Phillies win one of these 2 games.
And that's the thing. I think they will want to win one of those first 2 in Atlanta.
Have they said who's starting on Saturday yet? It's Thursday as we record this podcast.
For Philly, I would assume it's going to be Ranger Suarez.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But I don't think there has been an official announcement yet. And of course, Taijuan Walker is still on the table. But my gut tells me they'd go with Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the extra day's rest, you could come right back
with Wheeler and Nola.
Wheeler and Nola for games 2 and 3. But we'll see what they do.
No,
I expect Ranger for game 1.
I like this team. I'm confident in this team. I love the way that they play. They play for each other, and it's electric. And people have been talking about it all week long. Just the whole atmosphere in Philly. Just the way it was. Especially when you look at how just the whole scene played out in Tampa. Did you watch any of those games?
The Tampa games?
Yeah. It looked like, why it looked like they was playing in front of 37 people?
Because they were.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy, though.
No, like, I watched, it was one of the morning shows, I believe, ESPN one of their morning shows, had the commissioner on, baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred on.
Mm-hmm.
And they discussed it. They brought that very conversation. They said it was maybe 19,000 people in Tampa Bay that showed up for a playoff game. Now, I'm not sure if anyone realizes how how small of a crowd that is. Citizens Bank in a playoff game, you're going to see, 60,000?
Yep.
So that's a third of what you would get at the Bay.
It's like we're not that far removed from bad Phillies baseball. They've been able to turn it around. They've been able, they've steadily gotten better over the last 2 to 3 seasons.
This is only our second year out of a 13-year playoff drought.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies have made the playoffs 16, 17 times ever. We've seen a lot of bad baseball.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. But what I'm saying is we know what Citizens Bank Park looks like when only a fraction of people are there.
Mm-hmm.
But we also, given the fact that I guess two of the last real, honestly, with you and I being all right, being Philly people in our 40s, we remember a lot of the good Phillies runs.
They were all in our lifetime.
Yeah, they're all in our lifetime. Yeah, that's my point.
The first ones were when we were very young.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the 93 year. No, not the 93 run, the 93
year. Yeah.
And then there was
07 to 2000.
The Rollins Utley Howard run.
Mm-hmm.
And the Four Aces,
mm-hmm.
which was really one championship, mm-hmm. one appearance, and a couple disappointments.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to be honest, it was a great team.
Yeah,
but there were a couple disappointments during that year. Like 2011, you had the best team in the league and lost in the divisional round.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But nonetheless, we know throughout all of that, there was never a time through any of those runs you could ever say anything about fan participation. You remember the Vet in 93. The Vet was rocking.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Citizens Bank Park from 2007 to 2012. Yes, there were some disappointments. Yes, there were, there were some times when the team might have fallen short, but it wasn't like Tampa Bay gets swept in a best of 3 series. They lose 2 games. But the thing about the wild card is, it's the team with home field advantage has the whole series. It's not like you get, one team gets a game. The team.
All 3 games, if necessary, are in your stadium.
Yes.
And here's the thing that bothers me about this. Bad team, nobody shows up, they boo. Whatever happens, fine. You're a bad team. But when you're a playoff team, when you're a 90-win baseball team,
mm-hmm.
you can't. And I don't want to blame the loss on the fans,
mm-hmm.
but when you hear for the Phillies, when Wheeler comes out for game 1 and he says he's getting goosebumps and he can feel the crowd getting him juiced up, and then comes out throwing 98, 99.
Exactly.
The crowd saved Trey Turner's whole season. The crowd can't, like it or not, it impacts these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And for the crowd to not show up for a playoff game,
I can't even
when their impact is most meaningful. What are we even doing? What are we even doing at this point?
Can't fathom it. I can't even put it in my mind. Somebody made a post on Twitter basically saying, why would you put a playoff game in the middle of the afternoon on a weekday? And people from Philly was like, it wouldn't matter what time you put that game. Philly would sell out. It's like, look, it wouldn't matter if it was 3:30 in the afternoon or 3:30 in the morning. The bank would be sold out. It would be rocking.
Oh, people are missing work, going to get their kid early from school.
Exactly.
Junior, no math today, Junior. Count these balls and strikes.
A 3:30 a.m. game. The biggest question among Philly fans would be, do you let your kids go to sleep tonight? Or do you just stay up and wait to go to the game?
If the game's at 3:30 a.m.,
if the game's at 3:30 in the morning, do you let your kids go to sleep, or do you say, "Nah, we got to stay up and watch this game"?
Oh, that's not even going to be the question because your kids are watching the game.
Yeah, oh yeah, the kids going to watch the game.
The question is, do they go to sleep after the game, or do they take off school? That's the only question because they're watching the game,
and that's going to be decided by whether or not they win. Phillies win a 3:30 a.m. game. Nah, we staying home. Forget school. In fact, what school district's going to stay open? Phillies win at 3:30 a.m. Philly school's going to be closed.
So you could buy a plane ticket, a ticket to the stadium in Atlanta for game one.
Yeah, whatever that stadium is called, because stadiums don't last long in Atlanta.
And a ticket back home to Philly for less than what it would cost you to get a ticket for game 3 in Philly. Because the secondary market. It matters in Philly.
Yes.
We care.
Yes.
Some of these cities got tickets going for $7 trying to move units. Nah, Philly, those units, they've been moved, flipped, repackaged. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
You got Stringer Bell putting the word out. We back up.
Exactly. Let everybody out there know we back up. Exactly.
We do it different here.
I can't see it, man. I can't see it. There'll never be empty. You'll never, ever see empty seats at a playoff game for any Philly sport. I don't care.
I was watching.
Phillies,
if you're watching the national broadcast for Phillies game 1, the announcers during the game were actually noting they literally could not find one empty seat as they looked around. Not one. And Tampa Bay has 2/3 of their stadium empty.
It's ridiculous.
You could have rolled up in the 5th inning, let me get a seat. I got $2. They'd be like, come on, I got you.
Well, exactly. Should be ashamed. They should be ashamed. You're making a case for contraction at this point. Just shut the whole team down. Shut the whole team down, man. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's whatever, man. But Phillies are moving on. Facing the Braves by next week when we do this show. Hopefully, let's see, what is it? Saturday, Monday, Wednesday are the first 3 games.
I believe so. Yeah.
So
hopefully by then we should have 2-1.
Yeah. I'll take it.
I called it in 4, so at that point we should be up 2-1.
Okay.
Splitting Atlanta, won the first one in Philly.
Let's do it. Let's have it. All right, man. Time to talk Eagles, bro. Let's get back to the Eagles.
We got one more thing to do before we do that.
Oh no!
Because remember episode 1 of this season?
Yes.
Do you remember how I started this season of Jonesy Brown?
Yeah. Yes.
What did I say? What did I say the Sixers should do then?
Blow it all up?
I said they should blow it up.
Yes.
When we had our family meeting at the end of last season after that disappointment.
Yes.
Shout out to Adio Royster and Javon Alford. At that point, I said blow it up.
Yes, you did. You absolutely did.
Since then, your 2 biggest rivals in the East
have both gotten infinitely better.
Have both gotten significantly better. Dame goes to Milwaukee, which gives them a bona fide closer perimeter scoring threat to go alongside Middleton. Middleton was their closer and did the job admirably. But now you got Dame and Middleton, both guys you can count on to make big shots close, and Giannis is still the engine of the team. Boston, they had made moves earlier. They got bigger. They brought in Porzingis. They did some other things. But you wondered, especially with Smart gone, Smart even himself was more of a defensive player than a playmaker at the point. Now they have a bona fide point guard in there and Drew Holiday. Boston got better. Meanwhile, Philly's just happy James Harden showed up to camp.
Happy showed up for camp. And happy he didn't come in wearing a fat suit. He didn't come in with or with a T-shirt that said Daryl Morey is a liar, because you and I know, because we talk.
Mm-hmm.
There are stories, there are angles, there are things that you pay attention to and you listen to, and then sometimes you hear things and you just brush it off because it just sounds like hearsay and just made up narratives, because that's where we are now as a community, as a society, where in this social media era, people will just say what they want, and because they have a forum like a Twitter, like a Instagram, like, whatever, we have to give it some sort of attention, we have to give it some sort of credit. Either way, I had read somewhere that reports that James Harden said he was going to show up to camp and create a scene. So I'm thinking, that just sounds crazy.
That's weird. I didn't expect, strictly because the commissioner has been vocal this offseason about his displeasure with players making specific demands about where they want to be traded. And Harden also, after being fined for some comments he made earlier in the offseason, has assured the commissioner that he plans to fulfill any contractual obligations he may have. He may not be fully committed or give you his best effort, but he does plan to at least fulfill his contractual obligations. So he's going to show up. He's going to play. He may not play well, but he's going to show up and he's going to play. And to be honest, at this point in Harden's career, he needs to show up. He needs to play. And he really needs to play well, because he would not be the first guy to have something left in the tank and not be able to get a job because owners and GMs think he's a distraction or other. Boogie Cousins still has something in the tank, and I haven't seen him on the court in a couple years. That's just how it. If you're,
look at the end of Carmelo's career.
Correct.
Look how it was, for Carmelo.
He probably still had a little left in the tank, but he wasn't. Teams weren't lining up to sign him because there was a perceived distraction, and that's really all it takes for an older player.
And for me, I guess it just sounded kind of far-fetched, but as I researched it, it came from more credible sources that that's what Harden intended to do.
Now, here's where it really gets interesting. The report I heard today about Harden, and I believe I sent this to you and Javon as I saw it. James Harden apparently talked himself out of the max contract with Houston. There was all that smoke about it from December on about him returning to Houston. And then when we got to the offseason, it's suddenly like, nope, we don't want him. But apparently, from what we are being told, Houston was prepared to offer Harden the max deal for 4 years. But when they met with Harden, he comes in talking about he wants to get back to the scoring champ, MVP type Harden. And that wasn't what Houston or really anybody wants from Harden at this point, which is where there is the real disconnect, because he thinks he needs the freedom to do that, which is why he wants out of Philly. Nobody that wants to win wants him to play like that. And he's talking about he wants to go to a contender. Like, no, if you want to go to a contender, you have to play team ball.
Exactly.
If you want to be highlight Harden, we'll send you anywhere for that.
The league has always been filled with guys who are willing to go to bad teams and be the best player.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be highlight Harden, go to one of these smaller, these bottom feeder teams.
You can't make demands for a contender and want to be highlight Harden.
Contender. That's the reason why they're contenders.
Because
there's a reason why they're contenders, because they play team basketball, and for pretty much most of them, they have their star already.
Mm-hmm. They have a couple stars.
Exactly. Milwaukee doesn't need highlight Harden. Boston doesn't need highlight Harden.
The Clippers don't need highlight Harden.
Who? Really? How do you say that to your locker room? Yes, I know we got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but look, we need to make sure this ball goes through James Harden.
We got Russ Westbrook too. Try telling Russ Westbrook that he's got to take a back seat to highlight Harden.
It's like I was already on a team that got rid of that dude. It's like I've been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
Twice.
And that's the same reason Westbrook got moved out from the Lakers. Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've been screaming this for years, but people will figure it out eventually. That style of ball doesn't work from your primary ball hand.
Mm-hmm.
Just doesn't work. He'll put up big numbers and your team will lose.
Yeah, and I think maybe, just maybe, but it looks like that's starting to sink in with Westbrook, and that's why he's been able to stay in the league, because I think he was on the cusp of that, making it about me until he falls out of the league, like joining that Boogie Cousins, that Melo, that Dwight Howard type type situation where you could contribute. You have something in the tank, but teams just don't want you no more.
Well, honestly, I think the only reason Westbrook was able to salvage anything with the Clippers last season after he got traded from the Lakers is simply because of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard's limited availability. Because when they were both out there was still chemistry issues, but when it's one or neither of them, Westbrook has opportunity to be that ball dominant guy again. Mm-hmm. And so that is really the main reason why I think we saw life out of Westbrook with the Clippers, because they had opportunity for him to be the one-man show on at least every other night or so because of the lack of availability of their stars.
All right, real quick before we move on to football, shout out to Elijah Newman. He wants to know what you think Lakers and Boston are going to do. I think Boston could quite possibly win the East.
Boston's a serious contender to make a finals run.
And that sucks. That hurt my soul just to say it.
The Lakers, I don't see much from them. They're getting old. Their best player is 39. And LeBron.
Did you ever think that you would get to the point where LeBron James is now the oldest player in the league?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Yeah. Because LeBron is playing to be remembered as the greatest. Mm-hmm. Which means he's playing for stats and accolades. Mm-hmm. You got to play for a long time to get them.
But
you want career.
Well, I guess, like, when I wasn't sure, like, I guess if you go back 20 years, mm-hmm. when we were seeing high school players go into the league, I think one of the things that you used to hear was because they were
the years that other players in college, they're getting pro stats.
They're getting pro stats.
It makes it easier for them to accomplish certain feats.
That, and also because they're bypassing college, they're getting that pro wear and tear on their bodies from a younger age. So you might not see them on the tail end play as longer because they've been playing at that pro level for so long.
That's not an argument I ever really bought into. Because to say that is like to say the college guys aren't working. Those college guys, they don't play as many games under the whistle, but they're still putting in all the hours every day, especially trying to fulfill those dreams of getting to the league. It's no less wear and tear. It's just less camera time.
Okay. All right. Understand.
But what I did think is those guys getting 2-3 extra years in the league makes it easier for longevity stats like the scoring record to call. Like, imagine give Kareem 3 extra years in the NBA and see what the scoring record looks like.
You wouldn't touch him,
but as is, because he went to UCLA for a few years.
I mean, look at how long it finally took for his record to be broken.
And or a guy like Michael Jordan. Let's forget, assume he still retires both times like he did. Give him 3 extra years in the NBA simply because he bypassed North Carolina. And what do his numbers look like? You know? These are the things where you see, that's where I see the difference in high school players coming in. And then now it's also with the extra emphasis on conditioning and sports science and stuff. A player that used to, especially in a sport like basketball, would see their prime from 28 to 32, 33, 34. These guys were retiring. Guys now are more regularly attempting to play to 35, 36, 37. Not all of them are great at that age, but you're starting to see them attempt to play into those years more regularly. So we'll see numbers fall more and more. But
definitely.
But a guy like Harden, real quick, because I want to get to the Eagles, but a guy like Harden, who's 34 going on 35, even in an extended basketball prime, he was never the guy who took the best care of his body. He's never been the guy known for having the greatest work ethic. And I just don't know how much leverage he actually has left.
No, and maybe he's starting to realize that he has to play nice a little. He has to play nice a little bit more, and maybe that's what brought him into camp. Because so far, there hasn't been a lot of incidents, not a lot of controversy. Now that he is in camp, now that Harden is there, he seems to be participating, doing what he has to do. He at least looks good. He doesn't look like he's been doing nothing but eating chips and wings all summer. But so far so good, even though we all know he doesn't want to be there. We all know he wants out. We all know where he wants to go. What we don't know is how bad that team wants him. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. But let's move on, man. We got Eagles to talk about. We got Birds to talk about. Eagles facing the Rams on Sunday. Eagles 4-0.
The 4-0 Eagles.
The 4-0 Eagles.
Before we even talk about the Rams, let's talk about something else real quick. The Eagles are 4-0.
4-0, yes.
But
undefeated.
Yet somehow, every week, when I see people's power rankings, the Eagles are 3rd, 4th. There's only one other undefeated team in the league.
Yes.
But you'll have all these teams have two or three one-loss teams ahead of the Eagles in power rankings for some people. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like the Eagles are being disrespected, or do you feel like the Eagles struggles, and you see the air quotes when I say struggles, are justifiable for lowering their power rank, where they appear in people's power rankings?
I asked you a question in our regular group chat. I asked you a question about
You
power
did,
rankings,
which is why I wanted to come back to it.
mm-hmm. because of a previous conversation / argument that we had on this show.
Oh, I despise participation trophies. For anybody who doesn't know, I hate participation trophies. Trophies are for winners, not for participants.
The reason why that was an argument wasn't because I disagree with his take on participation trophies, but we were talking about a specific incident and whether or not that specific incident constituted a participation
trophy. Correct.
But my question, because I feel like the argument that you made about participation trophies can be added to a lot of things. I say that because sometimes I feel like power rankings are part of that participation trophy.
And I feel you. No, for me, I don't necessarily, because for me, I think I see power rankings as whatever journalist, whatever analyst woke up on Tuesday morning after the last game and says, I feel like these are the best 5 teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a snapshot of where that one analyst that did the power rankings feels like the teams they are right now.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily see it as a participation trophy as much as sometimes I just see it as a delusion. Like, say you're a Chiefs supporter and analyst, right? And you have your power rankings as 49ers, then Chiefs, right? And then you have the Chiefs ahead of the Eagles because you say that, well, the Eagles haven't had a great complete game yet, but the Chiefs lost one and they almost lost to the Jets. They had 2 games where they didn't look great. And the Eagles, whether or not they had a game where they didn't look great, they won it. Yeah. How are they getting pushed down for style points in their power rankings, but a team with a loss is not being pushed down for style points? That's where I see it in more delusion than, like, it's fans wanting to hold on to hope, and it's delusion to me.
This is why I call power rankings a participation trophy. How did you start this conversation? How did you describe the Philadelphia Eagles when we started this conversation?
4-0.
Exactly. My team's 4-0. That's why I believe that they're one of the best teams, top 2 teams in the NFL. Because they have not lost yet. Because no one has beaten them yet. Because every week when they put their hands in the dirt against another team, they come out and they have won.
Mm-hmm. Now in NFL, with the schedule being what it is, early in the year, if you're one of the last undefeated teams, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the best team. Mm-hmm. So I do allow for a little wiggle room there.
Yeah,
but we have to apply our standards evenly, which is why I say it's delusion. I can't knock a team for style points when they're winning, when a team with a loss doesn't get knocked for those style points. You know what I mean? That's where I'm just like, yeah, this is just bias from fans. You like that team so that you're showing bias. That's how I look at it. Because I don't necessarily consider it a participation trophy, because at the end of the day, we are still nitpicking between very good teams.
Yes.
And we do know it's still subjective with power rankings, because we know we're not just doing a thing where we're going the standings. This is not the standings. It's eye testing all who looks like the 4 or 5 best teams.
If you are telling someone that your team is better than theirs because of somebody's power rankings, in my eyes, that's a participation trophy. I don't care whose power rankings you have. If your team has a loss and my team does not, then don't talk to me. That's just in the realm of trash talking, which is all that we're doing as fans.
Mm-hmm.
If your team has a loss, so that means, yes, I am talking to you, Dallas Cowboys fans. Don't talk to me about whose power rankings, where somebody has your power rankings. I don't care about your power rankings.
Well,
I care about who won on Sunday.
Well, here's the beauty of it for me. This season specifically, you look at the Eagles' schedule. It has the 49ers on it.
Yes, it does.
It has the Cowboys on it.
2 times a year.
And it has the Chiefs on it.
Yes, it does.
All of this gets settled on the field.
Yes.
So,
and here's the thing.
That's the
the
season
Eagles,
specifically. All the top teams play.
Eagles could lose to the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles usually split the series with the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles could lose. Let's see who else. Eagles could lose to Buffalo. Whoever. That's fine. At no point in time in my talk about why I believe my team is better than somebody else's team have I ever tried to use power rankings.
Mm-mm. But that's why that's why for me, power rankings is just like that's just some fan telling me what they think.
What are we doing here?
They're really meaningless. Like if power rankings meant more, I'd call them a participation trophy.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really mean anything.
No.
So it's not. That's why they don't even rise to the level of participation trophy to me. They're just fan opinion.
I'm gonna put you out here.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna put this guy out here. Shout out to my man Dre. I grew up with Dre. I've known Dre since we were in the first grade. That's been my man 50 grand.
JB, do me a favor.
Uh-huh.
Ramble to the people for 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Oh, go ahead. Do this. Because I got a ramble. I got one. My man Dre. Been my man 50 grand since first grade. He's always been a diehard 49ers fan. Always been. Always been 10 toes down for the 49ers. We're going back and forth this season about, Eagles and 49ers. And my response to him pretty much since last season has been 31-7. This man wants to make fun of the Eagles every week, how they look every week. Oh, man, the Eagles suck, Eagles stink. And I'm just like, bro, 31-7. That's all I need. That's all you need to do. That's all that needs to be said. Bottom line is when your team played my team, when everything was on the line, know what happened? 31-7. Quarterback got knocked out the game. His backup got knocked out the game. We dominated. This man wants to come back at me with power rankings. And my first thought, when it all comes down to it, I'm like, bro, I remember back in the day when we were kids, you used to talk about Montana. You used to talk about Jerry Rice. And you used to talk about the 49ers winning championships. That's what you used to talk to me about when we were trash talking about the 49ers and the Eagles. Now you're talking about power rankings? That's what we doing? That's what you base it? I'm talking to you about what happened when your team played my team when the season was on the line. And you come back with power rankings? Should be ashamed of yourself, dog. Montana and Rice are ashamed of you, 49ers fans. If that's what you're talking about, power rankings. Bottom line is 49ers will play the Eagles later on this season. If all goes right, 49ers will face the Philadelphia Eagles sometime in the playoffs with the season on the line. They got to put their hands in the dirt and they got to take on one another. And then we're going to see who's best. We're going to see who's better. And know what's not going to matter? Power rankings. Nobody's going to care. When the season is on the line, nobody's going to care what your power rankings were in September or October. And that's what makes it a participation trophy.
And I feel you. And I'm not saying anything you're like. I understand your logic.
Mm-hmm.
Not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
Uh-huh.
It's simply for me that power rankings are so meaningless.
Yeah.
They just don't count enough to even be considered a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think of them as, that's why I don't think of them
Yeah.
as participation trophies, because they count for nothing.
Well, I think most people think, I guess, and my thing to that is most people think participation trophies are meaningless anyway. So we're talking about something that's meaningless. So,
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with your logic at all.
Yeah.
It's just if you ask me, are power rankings a participation trophy? It's like, nah, because they don't even rise to the level of trophy.
Yeah, it's like it's something where no matter if you search hard enough, pretty much if your team is any good, you're gonna find some power rankings where your team is on top.
Right.
And if not, the way sports commentary is now in the social media age, whereas if we wanted to come out with a Jonesy and Brown NFL power ranking, we could, and we would put the Philadelphia Eagles on top, and then what am I then going to do? Then brag them? Hey, look at that. Jonesy and Brown said the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the league, and then somebody would say, "Wait a minute, aren't
those Eagles guys? Like, aren't those Eagles guys?
Hey,
like, aren't they biased?
The Jonesy and Brown power ranking said the Eagles were the best team in the league, and then wait a minute, aren't you Jonesy and Brown?
What's that got to?
What's that got to do? Exactly.
These are the power rankings we're using.
Exactly. Whatever. Real quick, we got the Rams on Sunday. Rams aren't necessarily what they used to be, but they're still, they're still a formidable opponent. They got their Super Bowl ring, traded all their draft picks to get players. Now, pretty much, they're a team with some older guys. They've had their struggles.
They have a couple of receivers.
They do have a couple of receivers.
Their quarterback can still throw the ball.
And that's still Aaron Donald.
And they still have Aaron Donald in the middle of that D-line.
Yeah. That being said, what do you expect for Sunday?
My expectations for Sunday. All right, back up a little bit. So after weeks 1 and week 2 and week 3, week 3 I said I was starting to see something. Week 1 and week 2, the offense struggled.
Yep.
Week 3, I actually said I liked what I was starting to see because Brian Johnson, week 2 and then going into week 3 where they actually started using Swift, I said that boded well for the offense because this offense functions off the threat of the run, not necessarily off of a 60% run share or anything like that. But the fact that the opponent has to respect what this offensive line and running back room are able to do on the field, now you'll see opportunities where teams say, you're not gashing us for 150, 200 yards on the ground. We're not going to let that happen. And now Jalen Hurts has room to let the ball go downfield. You'll start to see the big plays from Smith and Brown and hopefully one day Goddard. So what we saw against Washington, where the offense actually started to open up some, put up 34 points, is a direct result in my mind of Washington having to respect the threat of Swift being able to break one at any given moment. And now that Johnson has both in the minds of opposing D coordinators, he can really open up this offensive playbook. So I expect to see the Eagles, back to your original question about the Rams this Sunday, I expect to see the Eagles score 31 plus points. And the Rams are going to have to score to keep up. That's what I expect to see from the Rams. And I don't expect them to be able to score enough.
Yeah.
I see 38-24 Eagles.
I think Eagles defense didn't have the best of games on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
what do you think about
down
the addition of Bradley Roby?
I think it makes him deeper. I think I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to call him a difference maker, but I'm glad they got him.
I'll say this: like the fact that he's a veteran who spent most of his career at the nickel, because as much as we like Bradbury, moving him to the nickel and putting Job on the outside, Bradbury's not as good of a. He's good, but he's not as good of a nickel as Maddox was, and Job is nowhere near as good of an outside as Bradbury was. So you really got worse at two positions. Whereas if you can bring in a serviceable vet to play the nickel and move Bradbury back to the outside, I like that idea better.
I think there's a place for Job on this team. I just don't know where.
I do as well. Outside corners rough on rookies.
Yeah.
The NFL right now, you can't get physical receivers, and you got a lot of receiving talent out there in the league.
Yeah.
Putting a young player on the outside is tough.
I am not ready. I am not ready to close the book on Job yet, but I do. But I do
cut Job.
Yeah. But I'm just saying
in the mix in the rotation rather than having him as your starting outside corner.
He's had some very visible struggles. That's what I'm saying. There have been times in games where he has given up big plays. He's been. I think the term "exposed" is a little bit overused. I don't know if I'm not quite sure if I would call him exposed, but however,
there's a learning curve for him.
Yeah, a learning curve that he very visibly struggled with. So maybe you got to slow things down with Job and kind of ease him back into more playing time. So that being said, I do like that move. I'm not quite sure. This wasn't necessarily a move for the future. This was a move for now. I think bringing in Roby makes them better now as they work to get healthier, and it adds a veteran presence down the stretch with a rookie that has had some struggles of his own. So I like it. That being said, my point was I thought that the defense struggled against Washington. I don't know if this defense has a game like that 2 games in a row. I think this defense is going to want to get back on track. So I'm not quite sure if I see the LA Rams putting up 24 points. I could see 34-17. I could see I could see this offense putting up big numbers and this not even being close. This being a statement game.
Well, my counter would be this. If our offense does end up putting up big numbers and getting a big lead, you're going to see that soft coverage that has allowed a lot of quarterbacks to get comfortable and start getting the rhythm and put up numbers. And whether or not the actual game is close, what you see on the scoreboard reflects that soft coverage we've been known to play once we get leads.
That is true too. That is true. Either way, you said 31-24.
38-24.
38-24. Okay. I am saying 34-17.
Okay.
All right. Let me pull out the high tech documenting equipment right now, which is a pad and some pencil, a pad and some paper. You said 38-24.
I think the offense continues to roll. I think we keep getting better offensive rhythm. And I think the defense makes a couple plays, maybe a turnover or two. That'll be the difference in the game.
So there you have it. All right. 38-24 for my man Jonesy, 34-17 for me. You let us know what you think. You hit us up, Facebook, Instagram, or X/Twitter or X.
It's funny. My iPad still says Twitter notifications.
Exactly.
Like when I get an alert, it still says you got a Twitter notification.
Still says Twitter notifications, but the icon or
It's the X.
icon is switched over to X. I look, man. I worked too hard to create these graphics, man. I'm not looking for an X graphic yet. If I say Twitter, you know where to find us. Either way, it's BITW Sports, and it's Jonesy and Brown. 3 words all together. Jonesy and Brown. Remember, you can download this podcast wherever you get your favorite podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us and you listen to us. Just go to bitwsports.com, and there you'll see the list of all the places you can find the Jonesy and Brown show. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mike Jones.
That's John Brown.
Yes. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the sports. Enjoy the baseball. Basketball's coming soon. I think next week the preseason starts in NBA basketball. So
training camps are already
training
underway.
camp has already started.
So you know the preseason's next.
Yes, sir. So we'll have plenty to talk about next time on the Jonesy and Brown Show. You guys have a great weekend. We out, y'all. Peace.
Peace.